Our first guest today is State Representative Dr. Sulaiman Lalani, who represents House District 76 in Fort Bend County. Dr. Lalani recently wrote an opinion piece for the Houston Chronicle about what he describes as growing Islamophobia among politicians and its impact on communities in Texas and across the country. He's here now to join us to discuss the op-ed. Dr. Lalani, welcome to Hello Houston.
Well, thank you, Arnie, and thank you, Catherine, for inviting me and giving me this opportunity.
Absolutely. I want to remind you, if you want to join the conversation, call or text 713-440-8870. Before we get into all of this, I'm just curious, we were talking a little bit ago about what's going on with the Attorney General and all of that, and I'm just curious, how hard is it to do the work of lawmakers in election cycles when everyone is going off on what we feel here are tangents to motivate the electorate as opposed to dealing with the issues at hand? Are we off base in assuming that, or is that what you see too?
It is. It is not just disturbing, it's frustrating, when you're working on issues that actually affects and will help Texans, like, look for healthcare access, affordability, look at the education, look at the safety, security, look at the immigration there, we're talking on, look at the border security. When all those things fail and they don't have answers, they're looking for a scapegoat. And they're looking for the weakest communities out there who they can create in some sound bites and distract people, because they want the Texans not to ask them the real questions, right? Because they don't have answers. Mm-hmm. So this is all distraction they're creating.
Yeah. Now, to come back to what we have you here for today, you wrote this op-ed. What led you to feel like this is a point where you need to have your voice heard on this issue and what we need to know?
Again, the same point. We live in times which are difficult, and the misinformation and disinformation that creates fear. Then fear creates anger creates hate, and different people react to hate differently, especially the young kids. And then, even there were legislators who would side with me in a coffee room on a sideline, and they would say, Dr. Lalani, no harm done, this is just politics, no hard feelings. So I thought that I should write something to tell them that the words have actions, and this is getting out of the box.
That was something that really struck me in your op-ed. One of the lines you wrote, when I confront them about their rhetoric, they tell me in private it's just politics, no harm meant. But the harm is real.
It is real.
How does that feel, hearing, I'm just saying it in public? I don't feel that way in private.
It is, it's from anger, sadness, anxiety, it is now gone and crossed the line that is taking lives of people.
Yeah.
And that is what is disturbing is, people are reacting differently. They're making you tell lies enough time that it becomes truth. Mm-hmm. Make sure you weaponize the fear. Make sure that you threaten the weakest part. So, people are threatened of somebody who's praying differently. Oh, who my neighbor is. I mean, there's always an antenna that goes up. Somebody, people finding all these things that are happening. So not only the community is frustrated, sad, upset, but now it's getting real where people are getting killed.
Absolutely.
Does it surprise you or catch you off guard when you hear all of the anti-rhetoric happening in the same community where they're also opening the Ismaili Center, where we see like these two different things happening at once, and it's like embrace of culture and turn against culture?
I think there's always good people around, and then they would like to do that, and that happens in all the communities. And then when we look into and generally I say that people who don't know about their own faith are the one who are pointing on people of other faith, because if you look at it, if you read whatever faith you belong to, I've been taught that God is omnipresent. And if I can, everyone has that God in them, right? So if we can see whatever I believe that my God is in you, how can I point finger and do wrong to you? So, there are people who wants to bring cultures together, understanding together. That happens. But they're on the other side, there are far and few people, but they are very loudmouth, and they would want to create distraction. So my message out to the good people is the bad things are happening because good people are choosing to stay quiet. This is not the time to stay quiet. You get engaged, get into the dialogue, explain to the people, and you don't have to be ugly with anybody or rowdy with anybody, but engage. And then when you see something wrong, speak.
So, speaking of bringing folks together, back in March, you created the Texas Interfaith Legislators Caucus to push back against Islamophobia and defend religious freedom. Can you tell us more about that and how that's gone so far?
Yes. So, again, this was a moment to educate our colleagues who were saying just politics, no harm meant, is to give them a platform, like let's engage in a dialogue. Let's we can talk about social issues from our own faith views. We can talk about, criminal justice. We can talk about immigration. We can talk about education. What do you think, what your faith wants you to do? And I can talk with them. Let's bring on those issues. We can dialogue to give them the platform. So it was not a reaction to our some colleagues who opened up the anti-Sharia caucus. This was more of an education platform to do that. And I'm happy to announce that we are going to have a legislators and faith leaders panel very soon this month in Houston. In fact, at Rothko Chapel.
Oh, fantastic.
So I would like to invite all your listeners who are listening here to join us and look at other flyers and more information.
And what a great location for something like that.
Yeah. Taking back a little bit to moments, rhetoric, things that happened that led you to do this particular op-ed. Moments where you said, okay, this is out of hand. We need to address this now.
So it is actually it's two ways. One is, what was disturbing to me when one of the organizations did the polls, and Muslim rhetoric is polling the highest to excite people to come to the votes. And that was very unfortunate for me to see that. There's not only the elected leaders from the opposite party are doing that to activate their base, but actually base is asking for that. And that was disturbing to me. So that you created a monster, now you have to feed them. And then I also wanted to write to also create awareness in the community. Like, look, what are you doing? Learn to ask right questions. Learn to be aligned with people. There are, our governor takes 7-figure donations from our own community people and flipped around and then talk bad about it. And then same thing happening to any other minority that you do. So I also wanted to open eyes to our own community, like look for who is against you, and not only just outsiders, but look from inside. Because there's also dark money that has come into our Muslim community, and they're dividing our own community itself. So we need to be engaged and may become more politically astute.
Look for the hypocrisy, right?
Yes, and learn to ask right questions. Unfortunately, our South Asian communities were not very much politically active historically. So there are people who would come to their faith places and take pictures, shake hands, and then take the donation check in their pocket and walk away, knowingly that these people would not know what is the right questions to ask. So that's what is another part that I want to educate the community is look at the hypocrisy, learn the right question, and ask the right question to the right people. Make them accountable. That's the important question.
This might not be the right question, but help me through it too. You mentioned Sharia law, and there's a lot of misunderstanding maybe. What should we know about this concept, how it's enacted in our own communities, what is to be fearful of and what isn't to be?
I think there's nothing to be fearful of about. I mean, the various faith practices have different traditions. It is in Christianity, it is in Judaism, it is in Islam. It is the way of practicing your faith. Your daily ethics, that your actions, that is to be conducted through your morals. That's about it. There's nothing else that is competing. Texas and America has its own constitution, so there is a legal system. There's nobody's coming out. And the funny part that kind of, it's not funny, but it's sad enough that what percentage of Muslims are out here in USA? Now you're fighting for somebody who's even less than 1%, and you have no clue what the other 99, or you don't want to help other 99% and look for the actual issues that are happening. Look at us. I mean, we are here in Houston, right? World's biggest medical center is here. We have the technology, we have the research, we have the know-how, but our own people cannot cross the street to get the help done. And that's where we see all the complications that are happening, all those preventable problems that becomes, that $200 that somebody can take medications while they come and see a primary care, would not take it, will have complications, and they will end up in ICU. And now that $200, we are spending $200,000, and half of them may not even make up alive out of the hospital, or other half will go to nursing home. Who's paying for it? So we are so much penny wise, pound foolish kind of things in healthcare, and all these issues that are happening. So we need to work on actual real issues.
Absolutely.
So the path to fixing this, the path to healing, I always argue it's starting the conversation. People have to be talking about it. What do you recommend to start getting this back to a centrist point of view on all of this?
I think we need to all get more and more engaged. I tell my community also that we need to make sure that we vote our voice, which is important. Because look at the way elections are going. 10-15% of the people are deciding what will happen. So other 85% is sleeping, and then either what they're doing is sofa politics or they're just griping. So I am educating people that come out and vote. Even if we change that number by 5%, I think you will see more and more moderate people coming into the play. And then learn about the offices and what their responsibility and what their authorities is to make them accountable and ask the right questions. So they should be aware that, I will be asked. And then learn about what the systems is going. So I tell my people, like, when I file a bill, you like it, call your legislator and say, hey, I want you to support Dr. Lalani's bill because I believe that, right? So create that consensus among people and kind of work on.
Yeah. Something else you mentioned in the op-ed that I thought was interesting, you said, gone are the days when Muslims felt welcome in the Republican Party of Texas. Despite many in our community sharing the socially and fiscally conservative principles that defined pre-MAGA Republicans, we are now treated as enemies of the state and have become targets for violence and hate. Why do you think anti-Muslim rhetoric resonates in Texas Republican primaries specifically?
I think it's just the fear that excites people. And it kind of, if you were running the segment earlier about food, and people do good, unfortunately, it's not enough for other people to get excited. Yeah. So fear plays, and then when it's very difficult to unite people, but it's very easy to divide people. And then when the shallow leaders are out there who don't have anything to show, anything to progress, they will get into fear and then make sure that they weaponize it. So that's why I think it is running out in there. If they have good things to show me where the healthcare is, show me where the education is, and then we can work out, right? Mm-hmm. Other part which we see it, which I was thinking, well, this is just the results that we're seeing. This kind of discrimination happening at a very systemic level. So look at the education. If our curriculum is becoming biased, what our next generation is going to be taught? Look at the access to care. Look at the fear that we have created so much. This minority people, you think they will be able to get the jobs that they would want to, they would qualify? People will be asking 3 times, right? And then unemployment and underemployment that will happen. How is it going to affect the economy? All of that part. When the children goes to school, children are not born with innate emotional fear, right? They learn from adults. And they see that, and so the Muslim children sometimes feel inferior. So they feel outsiders. The non-Muslim children think threatened that I don't know who this is. So that's how things that's created. Look at all the attacks that have happened. All the youth. Yeah. So young minds process hate differently, and we need to make sure that we educate, we engage, and come back to what is important.
It's interesting you bring that up because it also plays into education. You first say make sure people get out and vote. The other thing is we need a more robust, complete education. But in this state alone, we're already challenging that in what's taught in schools. From where you sit also in the state legislature, what can we be doing to not be moving back away from an expression of ideas in a place where learning is a fruitful ground of developing fresh concepts and ideas and going back to an old rhetoric?
I think we need more people, more diversity in the legislature, where people come from different faith, they come from different educational background, they come from different professions. So we can look at the problem from various different angles and we can be more smarter. We need people who are more ethical, who actually have a servant heart, not come to be elected to sit on and warm that seat. Mm-hmm. So that when that happens, then you can discuss actual issues and you find the solutions. And we have the money. Don't take me right. There are a lot of legislators that were started with negative. We started with positive funding in our Texas legislature. And we have billions of dollars sitting to us. We can do healthcare, we can do education, we can do a lot of other things. We are not choosing to do that. Yeah. That's our problem. When we last segment you were running about Kerrville, and it just reminds me when I was listening on the radio, the flooding that happened. Are we prepared? Are we doing safety? Are we doing more preparedness? Are we doing more prevention? We, as a Democrats, were asking Governor the special session should be for that, and we are working. But instead, they wanted to do what? Special session for redistricting, and then the governor wanted to give President Trump on a platter the 5 seats that he wanted. So we had no choice but to deny the quorum, right? So we are fighting at various levels. And that's what I think people need to understand and know what is going on. Ask right questions and make your elected accountable. And then tell them, I am having problem. Inflation. I can't afford to put bread and eggs. I cannot fill my car. That's my problem. Look at it. Resolve that issue. You saying you have all this money sitting. Education. I mean, I think we are creating paper degrees and not the creative minds who lead us for tomorrow.
We have probably the arguably best medical center on the globe right here in our own community, yet the cost of medical care is so outrageous. Are there things we should be doing on the state level to help balance that so those in need are getting the care they need without breaking the bank or having to forfeit health care?
Absolutely. Absolutely, we should do that. And that was one of my reasons to actually cross from medical practice to legislation. And that's what I am focusing on, how we can improve the access to care and affordability. So I'm very glad this session, actually, we have an interim committee which is looking into healthcare affordability and access. And we're looking into some things. And we have been talking to a lot of experts. And, it's no-brainer. Healthcare is the only industry which the product declines every year, yet the pricing goes up because there's no competition, there's no transparency. And then this has become one of those corporate things like, how can I squeeze and make more money? I think there are some things where, or maybe rightly put, would be there is a legal and ethical lines. We have crossed the ethical lines to look into legal loopholes. And that's what the problem is. And I think we can do much better.
We had a comment come in that we're the capital of the world for health care, but if you're in a car accident without health care insurance, you are doomed to half-blank clinics.
Yes, and the number one cause of bankruptcy is medical catastrophe. And then so everybody is just one accident away, unfortunately. So we need to make sure that we create that safety net, we create that affordability and access to care. And that would help. I mean, healthier people, stronger Texas, more economy, better people thinking, working. We even think of how many people takes day off because they're sick and they cannot come to work. And their sickness, they could be resolved in 4 days or not complicated, come back to work. And then somebody who just sit and then get complicated and doesn't come. And actually some of them will never come. So how much we are losing the revenue on the other side.
The ripple effects.
The ripple effect of economy. I tell people, in my first session, there was an argument that, we don't have healthcare crisis. People who don't have it are lazy people. They're self-inflicted on them. And when I tell them, look, I have a teacher who has worked for 40 years and now cannot afford her medication. It's not that she was lazy.
Right.
Look at in your people. In my practice, I've seen diabetics for 40 years and having a normal life. And then you have seen diabetics for 2 years and having amputation, going to the kidney failure dialysis. What's the main difference? Access to care. And if they have not had preventive care done, they have not access to care, this complication is happening. Would you give that medicines for diabetic, or would you take care of dialysis for life? And that's what we want to create. So this session, I'm glad that we passed that hump that there is a problem. And now we're fighting on how to find a solution. So I think we're going to make some progress.
We've kind of wandered off what we initially had asked you to come on and chat with. And so in the last moments that we have you, go back to the op-ed and any closing thoughts you want the listeners to keep in mind as they think about this issue.
Yes, I would tell everybody that, follow the facts and don't get played by the fear. Do your own research and equip yourself with knowledge and not the noise. And then in this time, if one community is separated because the way they look or pray, you will be next. So don't feel that, so make sure that you stand with your Muslim friends and in this time of need to show that you're not alone. And to my Muslim friends is to don't let anybody tell you that you don't belong here. This is your place. And get engaged and be very proud of what you do, because we are the fabric of America. We are the fabric of Texas. You will go to the medical center, you will find how many Muslim doctors. Go to the school or university, you'll find how many are the educators who are Muslims. Look at, various businesses we are running. I mean, how many employment opportunities you are creating, and how much tax you are paying. So, practice your ethics, practice your moral, and be proud of practice your faith. You are free. Everybody's free to practice their faith. So don't let anybody tell you don't belong here. And to my other friends, the community at large, come together in this time of need, because we rise by elevating others, and that's what we make progress when we are united.